Well, separation anxiety is one of the biggest, I guess, problems. Now, separation, when I start with the word separation, it can be separation from another horse, it can be separation from a comfortable area for the horse. So even horses that are on their own in a paddock suffer from separation because as soon as you put them in a new environment, they obviously lack confidence because the area that they were accustomed to, they've become used to that and confident with that. So it's not only leaving another horse, it's leaving the comfort of an environment and also the last place that they felt safe. Now, confidence, okay, being the key is what I say. So a horse that lacks confidence is going to suffer separation anxiety. And so how do we give a horse confidence? Well, we offer them leadership. So you might come across sort of problems with separation anxiety when you might take your horse out. It suffers from separation anxiety, but you're there. So technically it shouldn't, because if you've offered it good leadership and it's happy and confident with you, then the horse that should be suffering the separation anxiety is the one that's left behind because it doesn't have its companion and the horse that made it feel confident. So what I'm going to start on firstly, because we've got a few questions we're going to go through, and that'll take a little bit of time, but something I want to talk about is when a horse first gets weaned. Now, I believe some of the bad horses that suffer from a real lack of confidence, now obviously it can be genetic, but some of it can be caused through the weaning process. Now, just here on our place, what we look at when we wean, because we're not sort of pumping foals out all the time, we tend to wean when it's right. So, and I want everybody just to think about what I'm talking about in this weaning process, because I'm not going to teach you how to wean foals. I'm just going to talk about the things that we look at in our foals when we wean them, and then you can think about, okay, how does it correlate with your own horse? Not when it was a foal, but how it is as a horse. So, first of all, what I look at when we're going to wean our foals is we might go out and look over our herd, and what we're looking for in the herd is when we look at the foals, we're looking at what if they're out, if they're exploring, if they're away from mum, if they're interacting with the other horses, if they're sort of grazing for quite a long time on their own, so they're already grazing, they're already out, they've with the other mares, they're gone out with other geldings, and they've got other mates in the herd that they sort of hang around, and you get to a stage that you look over your herd and the foals are sort of less and less sort of following their mums around, and with our sort of foals, it tends to be, they by about that 10 months old, they're sort of at that stage where they're little horses and they're out doing their own thing, and they don't have a need for their mother around anymore. So what we're looking for is the foals having a natural confidence, and a confidence to explore, a confidence to be out on their own a bit. But also, if we were going to wean them, then they've also had confidence in other horses. So they've built a rapport with the other horses around them. So when we do wean, and I'm not going to go through in detail about weaning and how we do it, but I'm just talking about what we're looking for. Okay, so and when our foals are showing us that they're ready to be weaned, then we wean them. So firstly, they've got self-confidence. Secondly, they've got confidence in the herd around them. So self-confidence is something that a horse needs, and it's good if they have it, because self-confidence helps a horse cope in a new environment when it doesn't have anything around that's familiar. So when you leave a horse behind, if it runs up and down the paddock a couple of times and then settles down and eats grass, then it finds confidence quite quickly, or it jumps fences to get to its mate. That's the one that doesn't have any confidence. So you can set them up early by allowing them to be young horses and build self-confidence in a herd environment. Now, not everyone has that environment, and I know there's a lot of other complications, but ideally that's what I'd like to sort of look at. And the second thing is the confidence in the other horses. So the confidence in the other horses is basically the confidence in people as well. So later on, as a horse later on, we are the other horse. We are the mate. We are the one that gives that horse the tools to feel good in new environments, because we're there. If we weren't there, the horse wouldn't feel so good in an unfamiliar environment. So last week we talked about leadership, and so leadership is our ability to connect with our horses, help our horses feel better, offer them confidence, and offer them guidance. Now, and the art of becoming a leader, there's things that we do, but we often distract our horses away from worry. Now, you might have heard me talk last week about the art of distraction. Okay, so the art of distraction is the art of connection. Okay, so if you can distract, then you can reconnect. Okay, so while we're distracting our horses, we're working on a connection, and we're working on them feeling good. But sometimes you have to distract them first. So if that worry is really worrying them a lot, and they're really intense on wanting to be back with their mates, if we can distract them for a moment, then we've got a moment to talk to them. But before it gets to that stage, a lot of you, and I will go through the questions. You sort of might say that my horse when it goes to the show, it's really distracted, but it's okay at home in the arena. And I hear that a lot and see that a lot. And also, it's got to be, what is your version of okay? So, and oftentimes the horse is still a little bit disconnected. It's still a little bit leaky. It sort of always goes to the gate a little bit, and but it's okay. It's safe. Now, a lot of people sort of go, my horse is, when the horse feels unsafe, that's when it's a problem. But when it feels safe, it's okay. But while it's feeling safe, it's probably still mildly disconnected, holding tension and worry inside it, and it's still connected either with the last place of sanctuary. So last place of sanctuary could be the place that has the horse. It could be just the yards, okay? Because sometimes there's no horses in sight, but the horse wants to go back to the yards where it was sort of standing still and relaxed, okay? Because that was the last place of sanctuary. So you just take them away from that a little bit, and you'll find that they're a little bit leaky and not connected. And when you pick up the reins and you pick up on ideas with your horse, the horse is bracing a little bit, and it's sort of, if you really pay attention, you'll notice there's a bit of a disconnection there. So then compound that, you take that disconnection further away, and when you take that disconnection further away, because it's already disconnected, then obviously the tension rises. And that's when it becomes, your horse starts to spin and feel really unsafe and do sort of crazy things to get back home. Now, basically, going back to confidence, we have to give them confidence, okay? So if it's already a horse that lacks confidence, then we have to offer our ideas and our leadership to build their confidence, but build it that they feel good while we're around us. So discipline is not everything. Discipline is only discipline. If it's not building confidence, you will still have a horse that will fracture, and it still will panic and run home, or it might be obedient and holding that obedience in and trying to hold it together until all of a sudden a hair just pops out from a piece of grass that you just stepped on, and then it goes, okay? So you've got to really obedience may sort of work to a certain extent, but if the horse is not feeling good and feeling confident, then it doesn't have the ability to explore, walk carefully through the muddy areas or through the rocks, because it's so sort of internalized and worried that it just sort of doesn't think about everything. It's not aware of its environment. So it's important. Without confidence, though you might have a focused horse that's really focused on you, it won't survive. It won't survive everything. It may be okay until something really goes wrong, or it's not going to cope with thinking about where its environment that it's in. So I just had a question come through there, and this is actually quite a common question because there's a few other questions which are very much the same. What do I do when my horse has a panic attack when I lose sight of his mate? Now, this is what I've just been talking about, Leanne. basically, now I'm going to go, this might give me an opportunity because a few people sort of will sort of, I'm going to give you a bit of a, like a lesson as such. Now I try and give people a philosophy so you can sort of think about things yourself, but I will offer you a little bit of a lesson in this one, and this will sort of correlate with a few other questions that people have sent through. Now Leanne, and everybody out there, when you've got a horse that gets over the hill and loses sight, basically it's with you and you're its only help. So as soon as it loses sight, it has a panic attack. But as long as it's sort of within a certain amount of distance, it can see it's reasonable. Now the panic attack was already sort of happening on the way out, because you'll find that the panic attack was the last sort of thing that really, when it all went wrong and you felt really worried. But before that, there was probably a lot of signs along the way, and the horse was slowly being a little bit more disconnected, more homeward bound and things like that. So I like to give people a bit of a long-term scenario on that one. So I'd say to you that, okay, when you work on your foundation around the yards, around the other horse. So the foundation might be the quality of your reins, the quality of the understanding that your horse has with the reins and that sort of thing, has with your seat, understands how it feels around you, how you can guide it and that sort of thing, how soft it is. If you can go in a straight line and another straight line and another straight line anywhere around the yards and home, and that horse is not deviating or sort of leaking out here and there or pulling for home and things like that. If you can sort of guarantee a lot of those things around home, then you can take your horse a little bit further. So say for instance you might start in an area this big, and if you get a softly connected horse in an area this big where the horse is happy to take in your ideas, then you might ride it this far away, and you might just take it out here and connect and then bring it back, and then take it out here and connect and then bring it back, and then and then you expand that a little bit further. So you go out further and you connect with your horse, and before it gets worried you bring it back again, and then you might go out again and come back, and then and the horse gets so focused on you and your ideas and that sort of thing that slowly you expand that boundary until next minute you're over the hill. But it might have been a week or so you might be doing it. It depends how much, if you only ride once a week, it might take you a few weeks, but or a month or two. But some horses, if you just work on a good connection, you'll actually be surprised how much you can gain. So then eventually you just get further and further away. Now, if the horse starts to feel anxious, say for instance this was the boundary, okay? You've ridden him here and home was over here, okay? So the horse, you've ridden him here close to home, and then you've just got out here and you just feel the horse out here starting to get a little bit worried. You bring it back over here and you connect and you make it feel good, and then you bring it back over here and bring it back to there, and then you bring it back over here, and then slowly this gets further and further. And this will bring me to another question in a second, but the horse gets worried. You don't bring it back here and make it hard for the horse. You just bring it close enough that you can reconnect with the horse, because as you said, over the hill it has a panic attack and there's no chance of connecting with it over there. So you bring it back, connect, and while you've got a connection, you expand the boundary with a connected horse that's following your leadership. Now remember, it's not obedience, it's confidence. It has obedience in it, but it's the confidence of the horse in your ideas that's going to make them a much better horse in a lot of environments, not just in a sandy arena, but through the bush and through very unfamiliar and dangerous environments. So for all you guys suffering from separation anxiety, that's sort of one way. And also in that scenario, the horse that's left at home, if it's running around whinnying and crazy, it gets the same dose of the same lesson, because the horse at home, you go away for a bit and come back, and go away for a bit and come back, and I say, oh, I'm surviving, and the horse goes away and comes back, and eventually, and this horse here knows my mate's always coming back all the time, and then eventually when he goes over the hill, and this one's still stuck at the yards on his own, he goes, well, I know he's going to come back. And then eventually he comes back, okay? So that's also a weaning process, not only for the horse you're on, but the horse at the yards, which can work with them. And also the horse at the yards offer the distraction. Don't feed them the big feed when they come in. Get them in the yards and then give the horse the big feed. And you know, give it something to think about while you ride around for a while, so it doesn't automatically start to panic. Yeah, so there's just a few questions here that came in earlier. Now Cheryl asked the question, I have a horse that cannot focus at all when in new places. Have done heaps of groundwork. Now, first of all, have done heaps of groundwork, okay. You can do miles of groundwork, but if the groundwork is making a horse worry and just making it do things and not connecting and not giving it confidence and giving it confidence in your ideas and making it feel good, then it's not going to help anything. So groundwork has to teach a horse your tools and teach it not to be worried about your tools. So your tools, as in, you know, would be the aids of feel that you offer your horse. So when I teach people groundwork, I tend to teach them a lot about feel, because I know that's what they're going to use when they're on the horse. The horse feels you up there. You don't get off your horse every time and go, hey, look at me do this. You go, hey, I'm up here, can you feel me? So I would work on a lot of feel on the ground, because you know, I try and sort of almost teach people as if their horse was blindfolded sometimes. That your horse can walk along with the feel of you being near it, and through the feel of a rope or a rein, and they can work independent of what they can see. So that's the sort of quality of feel you want to start to put into your horses. Obviously, it's, you know, because sometimes on the groundwork I see a lot of people, they work on what the horse can see visually, as in cues and visual things that the horse goes, I move there because you move here, and you put a stick there and I go here, and that sort of thing. So if your groundwork is focusing a lot on visual things and the horse is worried about making a mistake, or what I mean is worried about making a mistake, if it makes a mistake and then pressure's put on and it feels bad about the mistake, then obviously the groundwork's going to make the horse not so confident. So your groundwork, if it's a riding problem that you had when you take your horse out, and obviously most people have more problems under, well, most people feel more threatened under saddle because they're more, you know, on the ground. Well, at least you're planted on the ground, and if you can move out of the way a horse is going to run over the top of you, then you're safe. But on the horse, then you're up there, and it's either you've got to jump off or control your horse. So if your groundwork correlates well with your under saddle work, then it's going to help the horse under saddle. If it doesn't, and you're doing stuff where the horse relies on a lot of visual cues and things like that, then maybe the feel doesn't still have the quality that you need to help them in distress. So yeah, she said done heaps of groundwork, and she's made the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. Okay. Common principle. Now, make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. Make the right thing the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. You hear it a lot. It's been around a lot in horsemanship. Now, okay, if a horse walks into a rein, it's going to feel difficult because the pressure's there, and if the horse backs off the rein, it's going to be easy. So that principle is an underlying principle through horsemanship. It's become a bit of a method though, and I think because it's been applied as a method, it can be a bit of a problem. Now what I mean by that is, so I'm going to apply the same principle as that I applied before, is if you went back to the yards and made it hard for the horse and then made it easy when it was away from the yards, okay, then the horse will associate the yards with being difficult, and then it'll take the old idea out. So the horse will be thinking at the yards, its thoughts will be at the yards. So that lesson might take the idea of the horse, take its thought away from the yard, and when that thought's gone, then you've got a horse that's sort of underneath you going, okay, that you can offer some advice to, but if the horse has got its thoughts elsewhere, then you're always struggling with that. So that method will help with that. But if you go to the yards and make it hard, most people that apply this method tend to think hard. So they go, okay, I'm making it hard. So they might do the horse small circles, or they might sort of bump it in the ribs, or whatever they might do. They might sort of make it a bit hard at the yards, and then when the horse sort of, then they'll point the horse out and then leave it alone. Okay, so the horse goes back, they make it hard. Now, while you're making it hard for the horse, you're thinking hard. You're not thinking connection, you're not thinking here I am, you're not thinking any of that. You're thinking, I'm making it hard, I'm making it easy, I'm making it hard, I'm making it easy. So you're only really applying a method that is site specific. So it may not help you out in the back and beyond when there's no yard and there's nothing else but you and the horse, okay? So what you have to be doing is going back to where the horse feels good and saying, here I am, here's a connection, okay? And then you're going to be rewarding the horse at the right time, and the right time is when that horse tries and finds you and says, oh yeah, you, righto, yep, and you go, that's it, and then you go, let's go for a little walk. Whereas a lot of people just make it hard here and easy here. They miss the connection of when the horse has said, oh, here, So they actually deteriorate the horse's confidence, not build it. And that's the problem with applying hard versus easy. You're not helping the horse's confidence. And also, I don't teach it to people because I'm not helping them become better horse people, okay? Oh, yeah, they can apply a method that works, but what happens when you run out of methods? What happens when you run out of fancy ideas? It's you connecting with a horse. You have to, pick up that rein with feel. You have to pick up with So that's really important in building leadership and a leadership that's going to survive everywhere. Okay, so and that's why I'm not big on. I have to teach some sort of method to people to give them an idea, but I'm not big on this method will fix this method will fix that, rah, rah. It's more about, how can you help that horse ride in that moment. So the thing I offered in my last newsletter was you might go back to the yards and do a softening circle with your horse to connect with it. When you gain a connection, you just flow out with that connection and go somewhere. And that's what you'd be doing every time you come back to the yards. You'd get a connection, and then you find that connection, and then just you point your horse and let it just poke on out. And your horse will start to search away from the yards and start to get confidence in making its own decisions, and it'll start to ride away from the yards and get better at going further away. So, and with separation anxiety, your horse has to take you out with you, with your guidance, but you're not pushing it out, okay? If you're pushing it out, then it's like stretching a bungee cord that's tied to its tail. It's still connected back at the other horse or the yards. But if the horse takes you out and willingly takes you out, then the bungee cord has been cut off and the horse is taking you out, and it's feeling good about it. So I'm glad, Cheryl, that the idea that I offered you helped, because, as I said in the newsletter, blind Freddie on the hill that's watching someone make it hard at the yards and easy over there might think I'm offering the same thing because they see the person do a little circle or ride it around at the yards and then take it out. But the difference is stark contrast if they came up and actually talked to the person who was riding and watched closely, because they'd realise that the person on the horse is actually riding with a connection with that horse and finding connection and taking it away. Good, thank you. I'm glad it makes sense. So there was one I just got to go through here. Having separation problem with my daughter's horse. There's one where a lady had a horse. Now it's very hard without the history, but basically another separation problem. The horse was with two mares. The mares got sold. A new horse arrived, which was the mother's horse, very quiet horse. But when she put that horse in, the horse that was with the two mares obviously tried to dominate it, was very aggressive, so they separated them. Now the two horses are together, best friends, and now when the daughter takes the horse away to shows and stuff, the horse plays up. Basically, go back to how you can ride around home and take the horse away. What I said earlier, you just build that connection at home, take that connection over the hill and start building it there, and then when your horse gets good at just going away in a half familiar environment, separating from other horse, coming back. And also your daughter, you said here that your daughter might sometimes the horse let it get away with it. Well, separation anxiety is not something, it's not like you let your horse get away with it. you have to fix it. Basically, it's you have to get a connection and fix it. It's not a sort of, oh, that's a naughty thing. The horse is worried. So you fix it, and then you take your horse to the show. So you know, and for anyone, and there's a few questions about that people have sent through about taking their horses away and taking them to shows, and that's when they have problems. Well, you have to fix those basics and the quality of connection you can supply and the leadership, and then once you've got that leadership, you expand it, you test it, and then you start going to shows and things like that. And also when you go to a show, you might have a little like there's a lady that I help that has a very interesting horse, and I've offered a few Skype conferences and that sort of thing. And I do sort of fairly regular lessons with her, and she had a very fractured show horse, as in fractured, I mean, you know, as soon as you put the pressure on, it's sort of up like this, and, you know, really, and she did want to go and compete on it again, but she said, it's the horse is going to, you know, be the one that guides me on this, not I want to get to a show, and I was really happy with that. So we've been working on, we changed the groundwork completely, as in, not completely, we just stopped driving that horse to do things, and we started to guide it, and within so much time she did a really good job of getting that horse around on the groundwork, so the horse was soft and understanding, it was flowing, and it was feeling okay about being around her, and so she was still working on, you know, moving the shoulders, moving the hips and things like that, but doing it in a way that wasn't, that the horse was choosing to do it without feeling like it's got to move away from pressure and or else sort of thing. And then with that, we got her teaching the horse to follow feel and start to relax in the reins, and then start to understand soft transitions, and it blew me away. But she ended up going to a show and went really well, because her boyfriend was there, and he said, "Gee, your horse is really quiet. You're quiet today. Maybe you should put it in a class." And she actually won a class and then got reserve champion. And I thought she wouldn't be at a show for 12 months or so, but the time seemed right. The horse connected with her. It was really focused. It was really soft. And she went in, and the judge said that was one of the most relaxed horses out there. And she felt she was on one of the most relaxed horses out there. And that sort of blew me away. Because as I said before, I thought, you know, 12 months down the track she might be at a show just to, you know, because at that time she was only taking him to the show to sort of see if she can test her leadership at the show, not even go in anything. And the week or so before, he'd played up a bit at a show, but also he's had a few problems. He can't go for a wee, so he gets very, you know, he gets in a lot of pain, and he panics. And this is something that sort of we found at the last clinic, and it was a fascinating thing to watch him. The separation anxiety in him when he was busting for a wee was like he had to get to a part of that arena to get somewhere because he needed a wee, and he had to be in an environment where he was safe. And that's what we started to figure out over the course of the weekend. And now we know the horse more, and we know that, and she knows, okay, so we did little things like take him away, walk him around, relax him, and see if he can do a wee. And then when he's done a wee, he'll come back in and he'll connect with her. But before that, he was just a worried horse with everything. It wasn't regardless of how he felt physically. His mind was cooked previously from showing. But that was another little thing came in it. So it was like separation anxiety from the toilet sort of thing, which was really yeah. I'd not come across that very often. But now that the lady knows about it, she's got one extra sort of thing to help a horse. I have an ex-thoroughbred who, when in the arena, is happy to have another horse near him. However, when we ride in the grazing paddock, he gets very aggressive. Okay, so anxiety brings out lots of things. Okay, aggression, fear can bring aggression. You know, all that sort of thing. So he becomes aggressive towards any horse. Basically, some of the treatment would be still much the same, gaining a connection with him. If the quality of your connection is not there and he's worried underneath you, then all the other things come out. You know, if he gets worried and he becomes assertive because he's got to sort things out in his mind, and he's sort of there's horses around and he's got to do, then that's the way he's going to act. he also gets very uppity and will prance and feel like he will spin to take off back for home, back for the gate. So there's the separation there. So the horse obviously gets aggressive at other horses, but when he panics, he's still popping because he wants to be elsewhere. Okay, so he wants to be back at home where he feels good, and when he's out there with the other horses, he doesn't want to be there. And as I say, the aggression comes out. The sort of, let's sort all these horses out. And so leadership, go back to getting a clear connection, and also, as I said earlier on, distraction. Okay, so before, if you start to feel your horse getting up, distract that thought. So say if he's got a strong focus here, then and as I said last week, it's almost like if you had a person and you had just hold of their shoulders like this, and they were looking that way, you turn them around and look that way. Okay, so I might take a rein and say, hey, don't think about that, think over there, or think over here, and take that, offer a small distraction, and that small distraction might give you a chance of a connection, and then with that connection, you might take him off elsewhere, and then if he sort of gets upset again, then you sort of offer a distraction, try and get a connection. Otherwise, go halfway, go back to somewhere where you can actually offer more support. As in, if you're too far away, you can't offer your horse is not taking on your ideas, too far gone. So you may as well get off and lead your horse home, because it can become too dangerous. So take your horse back to an area that is close to the boundary of, okay, he feels pretty good, and then connect with him there, and then go back to taking him out again until you can take that connection anywhere. And then you'll find that with other horses, all that sort of thing, that aggression and stuff will go, because and in last week I said that I've not come across many aggressive horses in my life, and I've trained brumbies from all parts of Australia, and wild horses and aged horses, and for the last 15 years I've been sort of training and educating horses and re-educating horses, and I've never come across really any aggressive ones, but a lot of that is in the way you approach them and the way you make them feel. Okay, so that's just his aggression coming out with the anxiety. Okay, so as I said, anxiety brings lots of things. So I have two horses that are totally herd bound. One gets anxious when they lose sight of their mate. Okay, same sort of scenario in that one. My horses can be rather... Karen's just come through with a question. Yeah, Karen, when out riding, everyone can probably read Karen's question there, that when you're out riding, you'll be riding another horse, and the other horse goes ahead or in another direction, your horse will become anxious. Okay, so basically, you've got to be careful of this. Now, I sort of offer trail riding clinics to get people connected with their horses out and about in the real world, not just sort of in a sheltered environment. And this is one of the big things. And what people tend to do when they're trail riding is you ride while the riding's good, sort of thing. You sort of enjoy the scenery, you sort of have a yarn and you chit chat with your friends and you ride along, and then but what you sort of, unbeknownst to you, while you're having a good old time on your horse, and I'm not sure if you're doing this. This is a scenario, but while you're just having a good old yarn on your horse, your horse is having a good old connection with the other horse, and they're starting to build up their own little, okay, we're together and I've got confidence in you, because the person on my back, they're off with the fairies. Well, how can I follow someone that's off with the fairies? I need a leader that's consistent, I need a leader that offers clarity, and I need a leader that offers guidance, but they're just sitting up there sort of off with the fairies. So what happens, the other horse goes off and your horse goes, I'm with him or her. So, and that's basically what's happening. So when you're out on a trail ride, I'm not saying you can't talk to your friends and just ride along for a bit, but don't let your horses just railroad and become herd bound to the others. You know, offer them ideas. You know, take them off a bit, bring them back on, back them up. You know, just slow around the horse. Okay, if your horse gets too panicked, say something that I do when I've got people out on trail rides. So, you know, they're all in a group riding around, and I've had some super anxious horses that you know, you can only take them a few metres away from the herd. Otherwise, they'll sort of end up sort of careering through the bush and flipping head over heels. So what I do with those horses is I might just sort of take them off the herd a little bit and then take them back through the herd and just let them feel good with the owner, connect, okay, good. Now let's take the connection out away from the herd a little bit. And, you know, some people also get stuck at the back trying to spin their horses around at the back, trying to sort of slow them down and sort of be the boss sort of thing and say, you've got to sort of settle in with me. But worst thing you can do is bring your horse to the back of the herd and think you're going to fix it. So if you're out on a trail ride, I'd bring my horse into the herd, just ride it around, offer it a connection. When it's flowing with me, I might take it out the front, then bring it back down to the back a little bit where it's sort of got a bit worried, then I'll let it float back up to the front, and then I might take it right out the front. And some of those horses, well, if they're not an alpha horse, as in some horses, they want to rush to get to the front, take them out front. And some of them go, oh, crikey, I don't like being out the front. I'm not meant to be out front. That's that horse's job or this horse's job. And sometimes just taking them right up to the front makes them sort of want to go back and settle in. So, you know, that's something to look at when you're out on a trail ride. And someone just sent a question about one rein, okay? Yeah, you pick up one rein to guide your horse. Be careful on how many times you bend it round and shut it down though. Bending a horse's head round and stopping its feet, I would do if I had to get off, basically. I wouldn't do it as a tool that I always use, you know, but bend its head around. You know, some people practice so many one rein stops that the accuracy of their reins has sort of gone out the window because the horse ends up bending all the way around. And the other thing you've got to think of, if you're bending a horse's head all the way around to stop its feet, are you changing what it's thinking? Okay, so same as I said last week about, you know, the hindquarter yields. If it's a good hindquarter yield and you're changing what the horse is thinking, and you've sort of distracted it, then it works. But if that one rein just bends it all the way around, you're going to lose rein accuracy because the horse still might have its, you know, it might be bent here, but it's still got a desire to go over there like that. And that's the biggest problem I see with people, you know, bending their horses without paying attention to where their horses are mentally. Okay, so I would prefer, when I'm using a rein to distract the horses, just to take it somewhere, keep the feet moving. I try and keep their feet moving, keep them flowing. If you do have to do hindquarter yields, as I said last week, don't do them by kicking your horse's hips out. Just pick up an indirect rein and just allow that horse to bend and soften and step the hips over itself through the rein, not through. Because a lot of horses, as you know, if you're riding a sort of pretty hot horse when it's got separation anxiety, kicking it's going to make it pretty put more energy into that anxiety. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, things, but I'll just recap what we sort of went over. Leadership. That's why we started the whole thing with leadership and quality guidance. Quality guidance is offering a horse a good place to be that's with you. You're the leader. You're the one that can take on the responsibility of some of the worries that the horse feels it can't cope with. So that's why you're there. You're there to guide your horse out and offer it a quality place to be. And your tools have to work. So the foundation, you know, I could go for hours about how to build better foundation and how to pick up the reins better and how to hold a rope better and how to sit better and all that sort of thing. But the idea is just to give you an overview of separation anxiety. So the horse lacks confidence, can lack confidence in itself, and it lacks confidence in its leader. Okay, so both things. A really fractured horse that doesn't have confidence, then it's just going to rely on your leadership. Okay, so over time, if you train in a certain way and don't knock its confidence, you will build a more confident horse, and slowly you can it'll actually start to be more peaceful on its own in other environments because of the confidence you can put into it. But you know, that's pretty. It's a bit of a, you know, you have to really commit. And also the weaning, as I started with the weaning, okay, how we see our foals and how they are when they're young, and how we wean them can sometimes set them up